It's the do not scratch your eyes post-match phone-in on X or Twitter or whatever it's called these days.
Well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I don't know what to say on that. Honestly, you picked the bones out of it. I'd like to hear what everybody wants to say. I mean, the first half was, let's be honest, there's one deciding moment in that first half, and it's the removal of Iran Kunda on 34 minutes, much to his I don't think disgust is too strong a word. The boy wants to play and he wasn't happy at being taken off, and I can understand why. He was immediately taken off after having a bit of a snapshot that went wide of the post. That became the sort of wow moment, because it felt like a sort of almost a sort of a do or die moment, really, for Petzolano, to be honest, because it seems such a contentious move. He brings on Vata, who spends the rest of the first half trying to legitimize why he's on there, because he's got to try and do something and play. And I thought doing a bit too much. And then we come out on the second half. Obviously, we'll get and talk about the goal in a minute, but we'll let you guys kind of cover what your thoughts are. But obviously, a fantastic breakaway ball from Semedo sets Vata out on the left rather than playing centre in that early start. And then you see Loser getting forward, marauding forward and finishing, and we're level and we're playing, and suddenly everything's going, and you're going, well, maybe that's justified what the decision and what have you. Very, very possibly. Then we get a second goal, which was sort of an interesting one, a fantastic header from Petri. I'm settling on Petri, by the way. Petri. I'm going to go with Petri for no apparent reason. And Sissoko is sort of put away. Sorry, his first touch was awful, but nobody got across to him, so he got a second touch. It wasn't the greatest of shots, but he's got the composure to go across goal, and the ball rebounds, hits Vata and goes in because of the choice, because of the choice of going there. Then it goes off, and sod's bloody law. If anybody did get a chance to listen to the opposition view, because there hasn't been much time to get all of these bits done over the last couple of days. We were told about Segacic, because we were making the comparisons between Segacic and Iran Kunda, because they both come from the League A, or the A League, or whatever you want to call it, from Australia, where Portsmouth have had a lot of scouts looking at different players and what have you, and it was a great finish. Question's going to be was it the right decision to drop Baxter after Saturday and bring back Selvik, simply because you're looking at somebody being beaten at his near post? And could he have done better? I'm not sure. You tell me, because that's really what this should be about. Let me just add in Justin as a co-host, because as we all know, it'll all go tits up at some point, because hey, this is Watford. Everything goes tits up at some point. But I come out of that thoroughly enjoying that second half of football, because it was just chaotic. It was two prize fighters pissed as arseholes trying to hit each other. It felt like it just went one way, then the other, then the other, then the other. And if there's one thing I want from the Championship, it's absolute chaos. And I thought tonight we sort of got that. But what do we think? What do we think of the latest in the contentious managerial reign of Paolo Petzolano? Let's go with tradition, shall we, as it is becoming now, because Rich is there, and bless his heart, he always works hard to get in there to make sure that I've got someone to talk to. Rich, sir, make sense of that, if you will. I'm not sure we need to, but what did you think?
You can hear me all right, I think.
Got you loud and clear, mate. Got you loud and clear. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, a bit like you. I enjoyed the madness of it. I think your description of two drunk boxers slogging it out is excellent, because there wasn't much direction for anybody tonight, and it was just madness. Now, okay, let's deal with the massive elephant in the room. I mean, the substitution of Iran Kunda, or however we all pronounce these things, it's just beyond belief and astonishment. Now, I have to be slightly careful, because I'll contradict myself a little bit, because my favourite managers over the years had a bit of balls about them, and when they felt things weren't working, would make substitutions however early it needed to change the game. Now, did it change the game in Watford's strength? You probably have to say it did, because Vatta's come on, who I think I'm a big fan of, and been very frustrated that he's not figured for whatever reason, illness. I love the lad. He's direct. He goes for it, and there's no coincidence he's involved in both goals. Should that have happened at the detriment of Iracunda, though, I really cannot understand it. And I think if you make a substitution like that, you've got to go on and win the game, probably convincingly and with flair, and really saying we're here to put a marker down tonight. Again, we're playing a team that have got a lot of players out. We had Millwall last week, and they had a lot of players out. And I noticed Coventry have gone there today, and I think it was 4-0 the last time I looked. And Coventry have taken Millwall apart, by the sound of it, and which you would do with a team that are struggling with injuries, and which is exactly what Watford don't do, but are very capable of doing if they had the right direction. And this is where it comes down to the manager, the coach, whatever he is. He's not there to make friends, as he told us nicely in that press conference the other day. I just don't feel that I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what the system is. I think we've got some very, very good players that, with a proper coach put in the right positions with some real ambition behind them, could be a very good team. I think the players tonight were a credit to themselves. I thought they were professional. I definitely feel that somebody like Loser, Cisco, somebody like that, who have got in a few of the players' ears as they're coming out for the second half or whatever, and said, "Come on, let's do it despite him, not for him."
Yeah,
they're playing for the fans. The fans that have gone down there tonight have seen their team play for them. They have not played for Petzolano. I generally believe that. There was nothing about that man that inspires you to want to play for him. And I think the dressing room, while not being necessarily a morgue, is a dressing room that isn't full of vital, enthusiasm and things. And a lot of senior players that are in that would look at what he did to Aaron Kunda tonight and will be thinking, nah, you don't do that. Not to a young lad who's been quite magnificent since we've had him in the team. There was nothing he did tonight that he wasn't being petulant. He wasn't on a booking. There was nothing to suggest he did anything wrong. In fact, he just had the best first shot of the game, I think, when he took him off.
Yeah.
So that is a narcissistic, nasty manager trying to say, I am the boss, F off to you lot. And it was unnecessary. And to me, not the sort of person I want running my football team. We've had 20 odd changes, I think it is now, in 4 games. You've got players coming in that, you've got like, Alain tonight. It's barely 2 minutes and he's got himself a booking because he's chasing shadows and not quite sure what his role is early on. He sorts himself out during the game, credit to him. Other highlights, Patrice, I think, as we call him. Oh, wow. Now, there is an upgrade. I mean, there is an upgrade on Andrews and people like that. A super, super right back who looks like he cares. We have got a player on our hands there, and full credit to the recruitment team, who aren't my favourites, but that is a top signing. I think we've done very, very well there. I share people's concerns about Selvig, and I think we have to say a lot of people used to moan, and myself included, that people like Batman were keeping the shirt because he was meant to be the number one, when people like Jonathan Bond did all right and got taken out. Well, you have to argue tonight, if you're going to be consistent, did Selvig deserve to get his shirt tonight? He probably didn't not deserve. He was only out of the team because of a concussion thing. But Baxter did very well Saturday. And I do feel, as a top goalkeeper, you don't get beaten for that second goal like he did. It was a hard shot, and he had to get down quick. But he's not in the best of form at the moment. But let's not talk it up too much, because these things tend to create a virus and things get out of hand. So we'll just say, we'll give him a little nod and say, just have a little bit of word with yourself and get yourself back to normal, because he is a very good goalkeeper. Well, decent enough for this league anyway.
I think that's a good point. Goalkeepers aren't immune like anybody else to having a bit of a run where something might not be quite right, etc. Obviously, the concern is because of the concussion thing, that you want to make sure his judgment is fine and it's okay and that he's medically sound. He was down at the fan zone. Anybody who didn't know that on Saturday, seeing all the kids. So fair play, fair play to doing all of that. But he's been brought back in. I sometimes wonder, especially when you've got a 1 and 2, is possession of the shirt, I should say, is possession of the shirt. That should be easy for me to say, but strangely it's not. Should that not be the law of it? He's come in, and I don't think anybody thought that Baxter had done anything wrong. In fact, the words after Saturday were, we've got a really good, kind of backup, and therefore you want to get it to a point of competition rather than if he's fit, he plays. It's an interesting one, because I've got nothing against Selvig at all. Love him to pieces like everybody else did. But as other people have said, when he came in last year and made such a difference, and he absolutely did, we were comparing him to those 2 players that you mentioned previously. He's now got a bit of competition. I think it's probably important that we do see that that shirt is up for winning.
Yeah, and I think I mean, it was nice to see Abankwah back tonight. Yeah, he made a wicket for the goal, and this is what I think the fear is in the coaching setup, and that is that Abankwah's got a mistake in him. But I think he's a very good player, and I thought as the game progressed, he did very, very well, and he stayed strong and got into the game. And again, surprised when he took him off to bring Mendy on with such little time left. Barr's left to rot on the bench again. This is a guy that wins you games. And we've gone to Portsmouth, as I say, and I remind us again, a Portsmouth team with a lot of key players out of their team. And we've come away with a point. And I've always said, if you can't win, don't lose. So tick. As long as you win your home games, you get something away, you can't really argue.
Yeah.
But again, when you get yourselves noses in front, because of the players' endeavour and wanting to do it, it's a real disappointment to come away with a draw against that team. And but at the end of the day, it's a point. The team have done well. But I will say, and I'm sorry, there's nothing that is going to convince me any differently. They've done it despite the manager, not because of him. I think there's a very, very unhappy dressing room, but there's also a dressing room there that is ready to, I think, just explode with enthusiasm and passion if they had the right man to motivate them, somebody to come in, lift the spirits, and let them off their leash and go. And we're going to have some fun this season because we have attacking threat, we've got pace in the team, we've got some exciting players that will get you off your seat and want to watch them. But I think they're being literally, it is very much Ivic type football. Sanino back in the day, that they've just been ground. They're not got happy smiles on their faces. They don't look happy, but they are working. They're saying to themselves, I'm a professional footballer. I want to be here. I like this club. I like these fans. I'm going to play for them. And you've also got but you feel like you've got a manager that's chucking in banana skins here, there, and everywhere to stop them doing what they probably could do. And I think that's sad. It's gutting. It makes me as angry as I felt when we had that clown Hodgson running us. And for those that are as old as me, remember the days when Bassett was around. It just feels that I feel an antiness towards the manager because what he's done, not because he replaced Cleverly, all this nonsense in the paper, we're all unhappy with Pesolino because he replaced Cleverly. That's absolute nonsense. Cleverly needed to go. It wasn't working. We had a dreadful second half of last season. I didn't wish him any ill will. I'm glad he's got straight into work. But when you're not wanted by the owner, you've got no chance. We would never have the players we have today if Cleverly was still there. So that chapter is closed. Cleverly was a magnificent player for us, and I'll always remember him as a player. The management thing was just wasn't wrong time. But this guy has come in and he's very, very unlikable. He's nasty, and there's a nasty part to him, and I don't like it. You got a lot of young lads in that team, and I want to see them enjoy their football, and I want to go like most of us fans. Go and enjoy ourselves watching football. I enjoyed the game today because more for the comedian part of it than two teams going bang, 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 and not knowing what the hell was going to happen, and it could have gone anyway. And I enjoyed it from that point of view.
I have another metaphor here. If anybody,
Yeah.
I'm sure people now remember, obviously, because it's I'd say remember it's back on BBC, isn't it? Gladiators. You know, when they when they stand on the top of the thing with the pugil sticks, which from what I can work out, enormous cotton buds that they then practically hit each other with. That was the second half. It was chaos. It was anarchy. It was okay. Of course, we didn't want to give the game away. And I'm sure we're going to be talking to people tonight who are going to say, "You're 2-1 up. You're away from home. You defend." Where was Jeremy Ngakia? He was in the center of the defense because he's almost naturally drawn to his right side, and then Sekacic is left free and easy. And yes, we should have still saved it. I get that. I get that. But the actual fare that was on there tonight, yeah. I was entertained.
Yeah,
you know.
He can't survive. And if Pozzo is, unless Pozzo's really got an extra grind with the fans and is punishing us, which can be the only explanation to me, the guy cannot stay. We have got to get somebody in that's just got an ounce of credibility about them, an ounce of understanding, attacking young football, can put an arm around these lads and give them a cuddle and say, come on, you can do this, and get them going. Look what Vatter did. Vatter had a point to prove. He didn't run on that pitch to prove anything to Pezzolano. He wanted to prove to the fans, like, I'm still here and I can do a job for you.
Very
and that's
true.
what he wanted to do today. And I just, let's be positive. Let's go and beat Oxford on Saturday, but let's just hope. I mean, I said on last Saturday that I didn't think Pezzolino would be the manager come Saturday. Let's hope I'm right. Or maybe some might not, but for me, it's over. We've got to have a change. It's crap to say that after 7, 8 games or whatever it is, but this isn't somebody that I want looking after my boys, shall we say?
I cannot disagree. I cannot disagree with you, and I can't be a hypocrite. I'm still of the opinion that, look, I'm happy. I'll be happy when he's gone and we can move on, because I don't feel. I'm sorry. I'm just not for him, and today didn't help any of that any more than anything else has. However, I did enjoy the fare, but never mind. Let's get across to Paul Holly. Paul, sir, hit your. Oh, you already have. Look at this. You see, Paul's an old hand. He knows what he's doing. Paul, sir, how are you?
Yeah. Angry.
Oh,
actually,
right.
Angry.
Okay.
Yeah. I unlike you, I didn't actually enjoy the game.
Second half.
It was
second
chaotic,
half. Yeah.
But yeah, all right. The second half, but I still didn't really enjoy it. But going back to that video that was released by the club of the dressing room and his speech, which was quite horrific, and you saw players looking at the floor. He's lost the dressing room. He'd lost the dressing room even before Saturday. When I came out the ground, I hung around a bit on Saturday, spoke to numerous people, some staff, people that are pretty well connected. They hate playing for him. He's got to go. I just don't understand that, if you're talking to, mature grown-ups, then maybe you can say, look, I'm not here to make friends, blah, blah, blah. But, you're dealing with 18 to, 23, 24-year-olds. It's the quickest way for them to switch off. So it is chaotic. Too many changes over the number of games. The players aren't happy. There is no flow. Yes, we got out of jail in the second half in what were 2 rare chances, but there were a lot of poor performances. I'd imagine he's going to probably shake it up again on Saturday. I don't know what his style was like in his previous jobs. Maybe things were different. Maybe he's been told to go in and beast them because maybe Gino thought Cleverley was too soft. But I'm angry because I just don't. It's just not an enjoyable watch for me.
Fair enough. Absolutely not. Hey, look, not everybody has to enjoy the chaos and the anarchy, and those two descriptions don't really speak to exactly as you said, a manager who's necessarily being played for. However, I do think we've seen the players playing for something today. They came out in that second half, and I think because of the proximity to the half time, they seem to want to go for it and want to try to do something, but it kind of it kind of got away from us, and it was a bit ragged in the second half. But I don't disagree with anything you say. I know, because you dropped me a note and just said, by the way, I'm going to be kind of sitting in close proximity to the dugouts last Saturday. Was there anything revealing of that there? That I mean, presumably there must be, because it seems to have cemented your thoughts in terms of Pezzolano.
Well, what I noticed, obviously, he kind of just blanked what was going on around him. When we went one down and there was chanting at him, he just kind of clapped his hands and tried to deflect it by shouting at someone on the pitch.
Yeah.
But the most telling thing was the subs warming up. Kerengard, Barr, Cipriano, Vata. You could see they weren't happy. Barr did not want to go on Saturday. He warmed up twice. He went and sat back down. He had to be kind of called a couple of times to get off the bench. He didn't really want to go on. That was my takeaway. But you could see it wasn't a happy place. He went straight down the tunnel at the end of the game. He came back out after 10 minutes because there was a Uruguayan fan who runs a podcast, and he actually, signed his shirt and did a bit of a quick interview and had a couple of photos with him.
Okay.
But he's unliked, and unfortunately, it's just not an enjoyable watch. We've played some poor teams so far. No disrespect to Portsmouth, Millwall, Blackburn, Hull, other than the first half on Saturday. We're not playing the top sides in this division yet. If he stays, we'll end up being floating above the relegation zone, in my opinion, because come January, half that squad will be wanting to leave. But the biggest telling thing will happen now. I mean, I'd imagine he'll still be in charge on Saturday. I can't imagine there'll be any change now.
We'd do it in the international break for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Beachhead is the first game after the international break. If he's still there, then Pozzo is endorsing this behaviour and this approach. If he's not there, then it'll be very telling. So I think that's the Beachhead moment, that first game after the international break. Who will be in charge?
I've got to say it. I appreciate you didn't enjoy the game, but I enjoyed the call, and I especially enjoy the Beachhead is the first game back. That's when Paul thinks we will be rebuilding, and who knows, he may well be right. Paul, let us know. Let us know your thoughts after Oxford. Let's get to Dave Carpenter. Hello, Dave. How you doing?
Hi, Pete. How you doing? You're right, mate.
I'm all right. Although I feel like I may have slightly upset Paul by saying that I enjoyed something that he clearly didn't, and I apologise for everybody. I always upset somebody about something, but Paul knows what I'm like. He'll forgive me. There's no doubt. What did you make of things, proceedings, substitutions, and everything tonight?
Well, I mean, first of all, can I just say I feel a little bit starstruck. I've been trying to get on here for years. Listening in. Yeah, finally speaking to you, and it's fantastic. I feel great, over the moon. So thanks very much.
Well, delighted to have you on, Dave. Dave is now a new regular, everybody. Expect him to be here lots.
Absolutely. Was that all right, like we rehearsed? Yeah?
That was fantastic. The tenner's in the post, mate. No problem.
Brilliant, thanks, mate. Yeah. No, yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, I hail from Cornwall, so I'm quite far away, and I don't get to see
Kevin Miller territory.
Yeah, absolutely. Nigel Martin, but nothing to do with the club, obviously.
We're playing Cornish goalkeeper poker, everybody. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I can't believe I knew that. Yeah, so I just watching the game. I don't know. I can see why Rich comes on first a lot. I mean, he knows pretty much everything, doesn't he? And he's pretty much said everything I wanted to say. But I think Iran Kunda's reaction, just sums up everyone's feelings, doesn't it? I think it's watching that play out on the TV is it's almost embarrassing, isn't it? It's
it felt like, I mean, bearing in mind how important to the PR of the club Iran Kunda has been this season, because he's got a smile that is a billion watts. He plays with the enthusiasm that supporters love to see their team being played and represented. But not only that, we know what a threat he is from a set piece, and we also know he's the most likely player to pick up a set piece that he will then possibly score from. Now, it sort of worked out, but that seemed to have very little to do with tactics per se. It felt like it was more to do with, in that position, don't take a shot, or he might have done something must have preceded it, because it seemed inexplicable. seemed inexplicable.
It does, and how embarrassing for the player, you know. And I think that the saving grace was Vata coming on. I mean, I don't know why that guy doesn't play week in, week out. I really rate him. I think when I first saw him, I can't remember the game. He came on and he ran through the centre of the park and had a shot and went over the bar. And I thought, oh, he's a little lively player, you know.
Yeah.
And he's impressed when he's come on, but I don't know why it's a player that's not played all the time. And again, I really rate Bar as well, but they've obviously fallen out. I mean, I used to run my own club Sunday League, like, I know it's a totally different level, but I fell out with the club captain, and I thought he was an idiot, and I hope he's not listening, but I couldn't stand him, but he was our best player, and I couldn't stand him, but I played him because I'm not a stupid manager, you know. So and we won games because of him, you know. And I did give him Manager's Player of the Season as well, and he was really surprised. He thought, I thought you hated me. Yeah, but you're a brilliant player, you know, to get your best team out, and that's what I don't understand. And I know there's too much ego in football, and I think that's what annoys me. So just watching that tonight, I thought the first half was really boring, and then the second half got really entertaining. Luz was just amazing. Every time I looked up, there was a number 10 there, just running all over the place. You know, he's fantastic. But I wonder as well.
Go on. He's just all action, isn't he? He's lovely. Sorry.
Yeah, he is, and you know, he's obviously a great leader. But I'll tell you one thing that does really annoy me with this Watford side is the lack of discipline sometimes. Like in the last couple of games I've watched, there's so much kicking, fighting, niggling, just gobbing off at the ref, and it's like, oh, please just play your football. You'd be better off doing that, you know. I don't know if I'm in a minority there. Yeah,
no. I think you're spot on. I don't think those are essential parts of Watford's cultural identity. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, but unconvincingly so, I shouldn't wonder, is the fact that we have said in the past about our team that we sometimes lack a level of, you know, kind of shithousery, of kind of gamesmanship, of controlling things. Have we got the blend right? I'm not sure. As we say, if you know, kind of Elaine gets booked in the first few minutes, then he's playing on a tightrope for the rest of the time. It's about trying to get it right.
He didn't look bothered either. He's just like, oh well, yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
you know, but as he walked away, and I think that, you know, that just says, again, that's the team are obviously like, well, we're not bothered. We'll just, you know, we'll fight and we'll argue for everything because we really don't know what we're doing. It looks like, really, because I always wonder, you know, as a coach, that you must work all week on tactics and scenarios, and then they go out and have a first half like that, and you think, well, what are you listening, or are you not bothered? What's going on? You know, is it lost in translation? Are we being mean to Petzolano because he's like lost in translation and he's trying to get his message across, but it's not quite working? Or is he just generally not very good? I don't really know.
Very true. Very true. Mike R has put a couple of great points here, which I'll just run past you if that's all right, Dave.
Yeah.
He's put, why are we worrying about fatigue a few weeks into the season after an international break? And of course, just before another international break.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I had a revelation from my wife today, and obviously everybody will know that I respect my wife's opinions deeply and I take them to heart. Yeah. And she said, turnover, I don't like that co-commentator. Get it back to Derek Payne.
Yeah,
like, yeah, that'll do me. I love Derek. Yeah, great fun. And he pronounces names in what I can only describe as the rich WFC2 incorrect stable dictionary version, which is pleasing. But it was just, it was. He turned around and he said, "Well, he's taken a banker off because, of course, you've got 4 games in 12 days." It's like, yeah, great, but this is a banker's first game in about 6 weeks.
What are they doing all week? What are they doing all week? What is it they're doing? Are they playing 2 or 3 matches in the reserves? What are they doing? They're professional athletes. They should be able to play a few matches, back to back. I don't know what the issue is, So
and there seems to be that rotation of players constantly. So, for example, and I'm told, and I imagine it's on good authority, that Kebban has been taken out because of the number of games he was playing. Okay, so he didn't come out with an injury. He has been rested in the same way that Kyprianou was benched the other day. It's like, no, take him off. And then, of course, he plays for 45 minutes, gets taken off again.
Well, it's not as if we've got Europe to contend with and cup games as well. It is what it is, isn't it?
Everybody there. Dave managed to mention Europe without bursting into laughter. Well done. I like that very much. But that first goal, is that the kind of goal that comes because of having these 5 or 6 changes, or yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of changes, especially at the back. Do we need to settle it down, whoever's the manager after the international break? Do we need to settle it down into something a little bit more steady, because it does feel harum scarum?
Well, I was going to say, you know, as a from a manager's point of view, oh God, I sound like I'm an expert. But from a manager's point, if we, you know, we've won a game against Hull, albeit rubbish, and then we've got a draw, stick with the same team. Just stick with the same one. Why would you? You got no reason to change it. Just stick with the same one. You know, let's see if we can get a tune out of it. But we know it's going to be a different back line again. You know, it's going to be a different midfield, and that's the trouble. So I think that's the only trouble that we can't settle. I think, and I don't, like we said before, I don't think he really knows his best team, or he's being forced to change it. You know.
Well, there we go. Look, everybody, Dave's there. First calling.
Stop it.
No. This is like a basically a Hollywood handshake, of course, only without the bacteria transfer.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. But look, also, this is a gentleman who has basically kind of managed, but Captain Nigel Martin and star striker Kevin Miller. We all know this. That's obviously fact. There we go.
Absolutely.
Dave, lovely to have you. Next time you're on,
great, thank you.
I want to find out what life is like supporting from afar in the country, because and also I need to basically make sure that we can get yourself and Ryan, who's based in Plymouth. I mean, there's got to be some car sharing going on there. We can save the planet with this sort of stuff. I like that very much.
I would love that.
Wonderful stuff. There goes Dave, everybody. I like that. Let's get on, friend of the show. Let's get on, Mr. Boyd Mayover. Boyd, sir, I hope you are well. What are you making of proceedings at the moment? It's a bit mental, isn't it?
It is. I think 2 things.
Go on.
I think there's 2 sackings we should do immediately.
Oh, 2.
The first one is the moron that released that video. So whoever from the club thought it was a good idea to release that video, we now have fans from other clubs mocking us. But let's move past that. I'd expect no better. This manager, Jesus Christ. I mean, different defence each week. The Irankunda substitution, whilst baffling, worked. The only thing I would say, and I'm a massive fan of Irankunda, I don't know if you notice, Pete, he does stroll about. He doesn't track back.
Oh.
I mean, he literally stands walking. Now, I don't know if he did it because of that, but I noticed Pazzolano shaking his fist at him. And 10 minutes later, he subbed him. Now, I'm not saying he was right to.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it might have been that. Cipriano, unfortunately, had a mare, didn't he?
Yeah. He wasn't great in the first half, and that's why I haven't made more of it, to be honest with you, because I didn't think he did particularly well. However, to be frank with you, I thought we were going to basically start seeing Sissoko's face on milk cartons from the first half, because he was just nowhere to be seen at all. Well,
we don't have a midfield, Pete, do we?
Well, exactly my point. I just felt that we were just not getting much from him. In fairness, as I said at the start of this, he kind of, I suppose it's an assist, because he went across goal, it got parried, and it hit Vatter and flew in. So I suppose he's going to take that out. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. You know how begrudging I am about Sissoko. Sorry.
Yeah, it's his one contribution in the entire game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Look, we have enormous problems with this manager. If you watch the video, the players don't like him. I felt the shithousery. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But it was almost like they'd lost their tempers with him.
Yeah.
It was almost like their frustration was with him.
Well, and at that point, it comes across as petulance rather than, and sorry, I know it's going to be, rather than the organised shithousery. Do you remember when we played Crystal Palace under, I'm fairly sure it was QSF at the time, and we won 2-1, and everybody kind of in turn basically kicked Wilf Zaha. And
yes,
it was like it was organised, and I know this is the dirty dark arts that we'll all complain when everybody else does it, but come on, fair play, we do it. That
Absolutely.
Didn't feel like that tonight. It felt like, as you say, it felt like players playing in a bad temper.
Yeah, it was at him, and I just feel that the lack of use of bar. I don't know what Luke has done to upset him. Clearly something. As I said, my biggest fear, we do not have a midfield. We have loser, and that's it. That's it. So we have no chance. And this guy clearly doesn't know what he's doing. But apart from that, they don't want to play for him. So the shame of it is, and I sound terrible saying this, because we got a point, this will now go on till the international break.
Yeah.
And all the crap from Pozzo about we're going to get promotion and we want to get promotion and Cleverly's gone because we want to go with experience, all that garbage.
Yeah.
It's just getting us further and further behind where we need to be. I'd rather them sack him tonight. They won't, but I'd rather them do that. I think it would help us. This has to end. I mean, apart from Hodgson, I can't think of anybody I dislike more. I just can't see light at the end of the tunnel in any way, shape, or form.
No.
I mean, how many different back threes, back five, whatever you want to call it, we're going to have? Petrus looks an upgrade. I'll say that.
He was. I have to say, I thought he really came out tonight and reinforced his second half from Saturday, which was again was impressive. I to be honest with you, I didn't think the first half was any great shakes on Saturday, but I thought he stepped on, and today he just went on another level. I thought he was tremendous. Great point.
And little Mendy, midfield Mendy,
little tiny Mendy, yes.
What's the bloody point in him? There was one point during the game, he tried to hit a pass and it went about, it was almost like, when a 5-year-old can't kick a ball far enough because he's too little.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. I'm just gobsmacked.
Fair enough.
And as I said, it sounds a terrible thing to say, but I was almost praying Portsmouth would score because I thought he'd get fired. I know that sounds terrible. But
no, I don't think you're alone, because I still say, after having come out and said, I enjoyed the second half, much to Paul Holly's disgust. Quite right, he reprimanded me quite well. Well done, Paul. I still can't change the fact that this is I put this guy in the same bracket. And I hope I haven't called him nasty. Sean, who's mentioned referring to the manager as nasty is over the top. Can disagree with substitutions, team selections, but what's he done that's nasty? If I have called him nasty, I retract it. I apologise. I don't think nasty is necessarily the word, but I think he's very hard to like. And I do put him in the same camp as Ivic. I do put him in the same camp as Matsari, and I do put him in the same camp as Ishmael, which is somebody whose football I have failed to really take to. As much as and there's been far more highlights under Pezzolano in terms of halves that are now kind of coming along. We seem to be a second half team suddenly. Yeah. But he's very hard to like, and it's very hard to like somebody who you can't relate to. So maybe as his language skills pick up, if he is still here, maybe that will change. As John said, John Myers, just some comments. He said Adam Drury of the Watford Observer really enjoys and likes Paolo Pezzolano. He wrote that he wishes every day fans can see more of him. Well, look, he may well be. I think we've had very little to be able to connect with thus far. He's 2 games unbeaten. Yeah, I think you're right. I think but like a lot of people have said on here, he's going to have a hell of a performance from on Saturday against Oxford to be not being sniffed at. I would suggest by with the sniff test with Gino Pozzo. But there we go. Yeah, absolutely. Lovely stuff, Boyd. Always lovely to hear from Boyd. Hopefully hear from him after Sunderland as well. Let's get across to Mr. John Parslow, who was so close today to adding more points on the Patreon prediction league for anybody who follows that load of old gumph. John, what do you make of proceedings currently at the Vic?
Well, Peter, except it was Greg who did the Patreon's prediction. not
Oh,
me,
sorry,
so-
you're quite right. I was going back to your doggy things. Yes, I
yeah, I
that
have been
makes no
drunk at
sense.
an Oasis gig. I have been drunk at an Oasis gig, but never been mistaken for Greg. But yeah,
No, that's true. Sorry, Greg. Well, we're going to be coming to Greg in a minute, so he can reprimand me in the same way that Paul did earlier on. I'm up for a reprimanding, everybody. Normally, I have to ring a special 0800 number for that sort of behaviour, but never mind. John, football. What do we think?
Well, I'm still trying to work that out on how I think. I think if you go result wise and you step back, coming into this game, would we have taken a point? I think probably. I think Justin and Carl definitely would have taken a point in the Patriots League.
Yes.
But and they had, and at least they've finally got one. But so I think
this is niche humour. Carry on.
Thank you, John.
And that's all I've called him to say, basically. So there you go, Justin. No, so from that side of things, but I was trying to think about it. I think I'm on the record as saying I thought recruitment at the start of the season, because I don't really want to talk about the players individually, but I thought it was just marginal. But actually, over the last few weeks, Ian Kunda's a bonus. Kungard, I'm starting to think okay, there could be a player in there. And keeping Bar, Loser, and Czech for actually is an upgrade, and one or two players. So I was actually thinking, actually, this is quite interesting. Cipriano as well, and it's a good squad. So I've kind of moved from going, I still think we're only mid-table-ish to there's an opportunity, and then anybody can go through the players today and criticise or whatever. But I mean, I think it's not the point. I think it's really hard to do it because, as Richard and some others have said eloquently, it's a bit of a mess, and they can't quite know what they're doing. And I just want to give an example. I've been through some stuff in work and in other areas,
right?
Recently, and been sitting on things where, I've been sitting there. People have been called out for not knowing the procedures and not doing this right and not doing that, and then finally sitting there, somebody putting their hand up and going, "Well, could you just tell me what the procedures are?" Whilst you're shouting at everybody, and then go, "Oh, well, I haven't got it." And I think this is where Paolo is and where the players are.
Yeah.
I think it's quite clear watching the pattern of play that there is no pattern of play and whatever's going on. And I think where I am a little bit, and this is the truth today, and probably from the chat a little bit, but I'm quite disengaged. I mean, so I'm in the Holly camp, right? And I had to run around a bit tonight, but I had the TV on, I sorted a few things out. And normally, get down to the last 5 minutes, I'm standing in front of the TV, nervous as hell. And I was just like, something's happened to me to go, am I really caring about this? Now, I think I could care about these players, but there's just the whole vibe of it is just really rubbing up the wrong way, to the point you're going, oh, does it matter if I miss that? So that's kind of where I am a little bit, and that's a little bit concerning, because I think I agree. You look at the body language of the players and what's going on, and I take you back to obviously Loser's first goal, and this is really important because yes, we scored, and then we got in 2-1. But if you actually see what happened in that goal, Vata goes down the wing, and then
Semedo finds him.
Yeah, he looks up, and then Semedo is still, when he's crossing, is well back, but there's only Loser in the box and Sissoko coming in late. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's us attacking, but literally, so really, we scored that goal because they had about 7 players in the centre, and they failed to pick up Loser. So that's fine, but we're not really getting into the box. We don't really have a pattern of play. We are just getting away with it in the last couple of games. So we've picked up 4 points, which is good news. But I don't agree. I don't see how many times he shouts at them unless they understand what they're trying to do. And I don't know how, if he is chopping the change in the side, it's almost like, well, I'm going to punish you for that. I mean, Aaron Kunda's what? I mean, he's not going to be seen Saturday, is he? Is he even going to be on the bench? Because it will be like fine for petulance or whatever. I blame Carl for Kurumgal not playing because I don't think he's played since he interviewed his girlfriend, so something went up.
No,
went off there.
I'm all in favour of blaming Carl for most things.
Yeah,
and having met a close family member, yeah, I'd say that's enough to put the blame on Carl. Definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm probably just talking to you for therapy, but I mean, I just think, you know, and sorry to Tommy, and you know, on chats and stuff and like that, and get behind the coach and team. I mean, I always get behind the team, but it is a really hard watch. And you know, and as I said for Holly, I did not enjoy the second half, even though it was chaos. So just because I'm just trying, I watch a game objectively and going, what are we trying to do? You know, and
No,
you know, I just don't see it. I just see individuals trying to do stuff and no pattern.
Let's take the first goal as your point, which is the fact that Semedo wasn't there, but Semedo had dropped deep into his own half, picked up the ball, taken it, turned, and then fired the ball out to Vata. He got Vata away. He'd have to be Linford Christie in his prime to have got into the box.
Yeah, fair.
But your point about pattern of play is absolutely correct in terms of where does, you know, when the ball goes there, where are our shapes? What are they? I don't disagree. I think they're improvising. I would rather give Vata the benefit of the doubt and say, actually, he picked him out. You know, yes, you can absolutely turn around and say Portsmouth should have marked him, but Portsmouth have had a problem, with conceding goals, anyway. So, yeah, look, you know, and they're a championship team. And as somebody said earlier on, you know what? Here we go. There we are. Sean, he said earlier on, in case you hadn't noticed, for the last 3 years, we are one of those poor championship teams. And that's the honest truth in terms of where we are. But we do have a few little jewels in there, but so do other teams as well. So, look, mate, it's absolutely fine that you can come here, vent, get it out of your system. We've got various different conversations going on the YouTube, on the new YouTube comments. Lots of people talking about things. Now, I do want to ask you a question about Petri or Petris. I'm going with Petri. Other people, Petris. We'll find out. It's like scones and scones. John, what do you think about it? Because Ian Hiles has put in a comment. Hello, Ian, by the way. He says, Petri comes across as the grumpy equivalent of Holebas. Now, I have two questions for you. Do you think he comes across as the grumpy equivalent of Holebas? And is that a good or a bad thing? Because I liked grumpy Holebas personally. I think that's a good thing. I think this is sort of a compliment from Ian, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to go to you for the vote, John. Is it a good or a bad thing?
Sure. You're talking about Patrice, yes?
Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. Patrice, yes, or whatever. God, everyone's a critic.
Well, it depends, right? I mean, I think being a grumpy Holebas is, of course, a good thing. However, I first need to see his wife to check, because that is the driving force.
This is true. That is you are aspiring to my low levels of analysis. Well done.
Yeah. So yes, I would like him to be the second coming of Holebas, but only when we can engage with his wife, as we did with Mrs. Holebas, which was a wonderful thing.
I don't disagree. To be frank with you, many people look back on the Premier League and miss the days of travelling to major stadiums and competing and seeing themselves on Match of the Day. Personally, just miss Mrs. Holebas. Yeah, no, that's quite reasonable. Lovely stuff. Thank you very much indeed, John. Let's get across to, I'm going to come to Eamon, then I'm coming to Wendover, then I'm coming to Jack Foster, and then I'm coming to, again, somebody who I presume is Caden. So guys, hold on for us. And if anybody else wants to put in a quick request, please do. We're going to go through the 5 words and some more excitement for YouTubers and people watching on Twitter, rather than going, you mean I don't have to actually listen to this on Spaces? That'll be good. Let's get to Eamon, see if Eamon's there. Eamon, sir, how are you? Hit your mic button.
Hello.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
I've got you loud and clear. The technology's working today, Eamon. I don't know what to do now. This is good. Sir, come on. Good to speak to you. Haven't spoken to you in a little while. Tell us everything that's going on in the world of boxing, because Eamon also does some stuff with Seconds Out and the like, and how you're feeling about Watford today and this season.
Oh, no, I appreciate the little layup there, but I use football and this podcast to just steer away from boxing. So this is my complete disconnect. So I'll decline the layup for now, but I appreciate it.
If we were talking about Troy Deeney, I would insist, because this man has pigeonholed Troy Deeney and got some information out of him before. But go right ahead, leave the boxing at home. You talk about the salient points, sir.
Well, speaking about information, this is what I find quite interesting and a little bit frustrating, because well, I don't know if I'm rowing my own little boat here, but I think Pezzolano deserves credit, especially for tonight, for making that substitution. I don't see a lot of people owning up or fessing up after laying into Pezzolano for making that substitution in the moment, and then Vata coming on and affecting the game in the way that he did, and then not giving him that credit for it. I don't know where the information has come from as to the players not being on the side. And that may well be true or not, but I don't know how we know that for certain, or where the body language that it comes from. Because for me tonight, I saw players diving into tackles. I saw players committed, trying to affect the game. I didn't see players who there were moments, of course, throughout last season under Tom Cleverley, who we adored, where players were down tools after January. You could visibly see that, and they picked up after the fact in around March. But I don't see that at the moment with Pezzolano. I definitely see like confusion with trying to affect whatever he is trying to affect. But I like the incision into midfield, which had been missing last season. I've seen that tried to be done throughout the past few games.
Sorry, how can you explain that? How do you mean by incision in the midfield? Is it that less playing it around at the back sort of thing, and moving it forward quicker?
That still goes on. That still goes on, and I think there's a dependency on loser, which we fall back on to, which because it's easy to do and because he's such a good player. But then I do see in the past couple of games, players from the back have tried to create the long passes into the midfield when they push a little bit further and then lay it up to the attack. And it hasn't worked. Sometimes I get it hasn't, but they've tried it. And for the most part, it seems to sometimes it's worked. I shouldn't say for the most part.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the full effect of Pezzolano's ideas. I won't profess to be a tactical expert and have deep dived into it, but I just feel like it's from that video that's come out the other day.
Yeah.
If you saw 90 seconds of a 90-minute match and you took that as your outlook of a match and you're missing a lot of information, 90 seconds of clip in a dressing room to take out of how the players deem the manager is, I can't see where that conclusion comes from unless you have further information that isn't privy to the public. Do you remember Big Ron Manager, that program on Sky? And I remember when they give the insights into the dressing room there. That's the only one of those type of series that I've seen. I know that Arsenal have done their stuff and Sunderland have done their stuff, but I remember Big Ron Manager back in the day, and he had Ron
Atkinson
Ron Atkinson giving the team talks, and you had people like Sean St. Ledger laughing or interjecting, or players with their heads in their hands and things. And granted, again, you can't see much of that either. I'm not exactly saying that they're ecstatic or anything like that, but I don't get how you can come to the conclusion that he's lost the dressing room. Or I quite like the directness from Pezzolano. I quite like the fact that he said he's not here to make friends. He wants to improve the players or improve the team. I appreciate that. And I think the bottom line with that message is, maybe it is to, if you know it to be so, that maybe it is to address a point behind the scenes that want to get in front of the public. But bottom line with it, with social media, is it's to get views and clicks onto and drive traffic onto the Watford FC Twitter. And they did just that by getting people talking, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think the bottom line for me, which I find quite disappointing, is if Twitter Spaces was around when Zola was in charge, you'd all be calling for his heads. And we had a great season. Sure, we didn't get promoted that season, but we had one of the defining iconic moments in the last generation or so for our football club. And I feel that there should be a lot more supporting of a manager rather than calling for his head so soon when we're not even 10 games in.
Okay, no, fair play. I'm going to counter that, if that's all right. Because I spent 4 years here saying that everybody is entitled to their own views. Frankly, I'm entitled to mine as well. And it's people are able to come on here and say whatever they wish to say, as you have just done, and done so eloquently. Support everybody's ability to do that and to say it. To turn around and say, I disagree that other people should say this, that to me is a step beyond. Only because what I've always asked is, just don't come on and be too worried about what everybody else is saying. You're not wrong. We all know social media can be, shall we say, a problematic place in terms of things. However, a lot of people have spent a lot of money and a lot of time, and a lot more than I, in terms of finance, looking at what we have, and they've kind of said, oh, I've got a problem with this guy. I just don't see what he's actually bringing. You cannot look at that. Well, no, you can. If you can tell me one reason, why did he take off Iran Kunda on 33 minutes? Now, you don't know, and I don't know. So it's an unreasonable question to ask. However, for a lot of people standing there, it was as strange as at the same venue last season when Vata, who got brought on, got taken off, if you remember, when we were chasing a goal, and we all called Tom Cleverley out for that, saying, why are you taking off Vata? He was our best chance for something. So it's not just turning against the manager, because Tom Cleverley is somebody who absolutely we liked and we supported, but we'll take a look at the detail and we'll try and discuss it here. But in terms of to say that this Twitter space is that everybody is calling him out, I would agree. You are possibly not in the majority in terms of thinking that this guy has got everything together. I think he got, when you make those decisions early, you live or you potentially die by them. And I think tonight, I think he lived by it. He got out of not jail, but he got the decision and he got the call, and so he's got there for it. Do I think that could have gone worse tonight? I think it was a flip of a coin. However, if we credit him for for that, we've also then got to take a look at the playing a right back at left back and not being there for the second goal. So it's all right for everybody to voice their opinion and not be called out for it, because the one thing these days I'm intolerant of is intolerance of other people's opinion. And I have for about 4 years banged on more about freedom of speech and the ability for people to talk about things and to voice their opinions, and I defend yours to say exactly what you've done very, very eloquently, as I would for everybody else.
No. Yeah, you're right. Obviously, what I mean to say is I don't get it. Not that people shouldn't voice that. So let me just make that clear. So apologies if that came across the wrong way.
Eamon, we're just chatting. We're just yakking here, mate. Don't worry about that at all. Don't worry about that at all. Go on, sir.
But yeah, I kind of, like you said, it is a case of him living and dying by that decision, and ultimately that's what. But was it who was the person who mentioned earlier? And again, this is the whole thing about in the know and not in the know. They said that they felt it was clear that Barr didn't want to come on in the previous game.
Well, that was Paul. I'll tell you now. As you work in boxing, you will know people. I talk to people and I know people, and we've got contacts who are in and around and about the club. It is not a happy place. It is not a happy place. He has gone in there, and he and his team, and they talked about this from the Rookery End piece when they said about talking to Petzolano. They spoke to his 3 assistants. They didn't speak to Paolo for whatever reason. I imagine his English probably wasn't felt up to snuff at the time. It might be now, because he can clearly put out a few lines in terms of that. They said, and they made the comment that we've come in and we've had to make changes. We've had to put a few noses out of joint, but they're now doing it and they're now getting on with it. Was the saying at the time. I have counter reports to that. So that's where that for me comes from, and I'm just saying that here. It is not a universally happy camp. However, I have to then caveat that with saying this is a football club. He was interviewed by Adam Drury the other day about, well, you left out Dumbia and you left out Duomo and you left. Do the numbers, do the maths. It's a big squad. Not everybody can be happy. He came out in that very sentence that you were talking about, and was it him or was it his colleague? One of them came out and said, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to improve you. And it was done in, as you say, in 90-second isolation. I have been an FA coach educator in my time. If I saw somebody do that for 90 seconds, I would pull him to one side and go, what are you doing? Right? For any time at all, because it's an occurrence that it's something that's occurring. Now, that for me is, why are you doing that? You've just won. What are you getting? Where is the benefit that you're getting from that, because the constant repetition of I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to improve you as performance. I get it. Does it need to be said again? No. You've just come off with a win. You know, the conceptual part, and people will differ from this. People will differ and go, well, you know, there's all sorts of other things going on here. But why not go in there and raise them up? Why suddenly go from, you know, because the two people he praises have been on the pitch for 10 minutes, which is Sissoko and Barr. And yet they've just managed to do what they did today, which is let's face it, plan A was not going particularly brilliantly. I thought today was much better than Hull, but we weren't, as we heard earlier on, we weren't really kind of getting bodies into the box. It was all a little bit strange. I would have said that was a strange moment in isolation and without context. I would have said that's odd. I really, really would do. And knowing what I do know, you know, from other areas, it's not a happy camp, but it's a football club. It's not going to be an entirely happy camp. So, you know, there you go, sir. There you go. Right, there's Eamon. Thank you, Eamon, for putting that. But I love the fact that Eamon's come in here and going, hold on, let's have a bit of balance to this. Let's have a look at that. And in fairness, fair play to him, the substitution works. You're absolutely right. It did work. There's no doubt about that. Yes, sir.
News in, Paolo Pezzolano says he subbed Nestori Irankunda on 35 minutes because he didn't look fresh and feared he may suffer an injury, not worried by reaction.
Okay. Well, that sounds to me, and I am surmising here, or supposing, or one of the four. That sounds to me more like the medical department saying he can play for half an hour. Because this season, the medical department seemed to be ruling quite a bit of, you know, player availability. You know, so as I say, Kebban not included. Most people would look at Kebban and said, you know, he's probably been the best one. But I can understand, as I said about Cipriano, if you're going to rest someone, rest them in the midweek, because then hopefully you've got them for both games. I can understand that. But if you're only going to play him for 30 minutes, and if it is a medical decision, you know, you would let the player know so that he would come off and he wouldn't basically be throwing his water bottle down and having a bit of a hissy fit, which is sort of what happened in a way. So there we go. Let's get to Wendover. Then I'm coming to Jack. Then I'm coming to Caden. Guys, thank you very much for bearing with me. Oh, hello. I'm sensing somebody's on the A3. Mr. Greg, sir, you've been down at Fratton Park today. How fare you, and how fares everybody down there?
Yeah, I am on the A3, Peter. I am. Can I first make a complaint, please?
Please do. It's a night for it.
Yeah, it's a complaint to JP, my friend John Parslow.
Okay.
Could you please stop whispering, please? I can't hear you when you're trying to make some excellent points. Can't hear you, sir.
Right. I shall tell him to speak up in future.
In a motor car. Now, I don't want him to talk as because, you know, that does do, you know, those decibels are far too many. But if he could speak up a fraction for me, that would be most kind of him.
Very good. I will pass this on, and you can pass it on directly too. What did you think of? Well, you were down there. You tell us how everything was received in the ground today, and you just tell us your story of the day.
Well, utter disbelief when he took Irankunda off. You know, we wondered whether it was because he wasn't tracking back, but only a couple of minutes before he'd won the ball in the right back position. So it couldn't have been just mystifying. I think he got out of jail because Vata played very, very well.
Yep.
But why can't you have them both on the pitch at the same time? Look, Pete, I don't know what I think. And, you know, as this is a phone-in when you're calling in for opinions,
yep,
that's not a lot of use to you. But I find myself driving home on the A3 at the moment with something in my pocket. And I've driven back from many a game with nothing in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't know. Look, fundamentally, I don't like him. I just don't like the fella. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think possibly the players don't like him. What is the common denominator with head coaches we haven't liked? Ivic, Maserati, Zenilio.
Maserati. Oh, that's a mispronunciation too far. Mazzari. Yes, go on.
Mazzari. Yeah, Mazzari.
He was Italian and expensive, other than there the comparison ends. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, all of them couldn't speak English. And I think that's part of it. I don't know. You know, I would also defend you slightly, Peter, with a previous caller.
Oh, that's all right. Eamon's been on here. We're fine. He knows we're here to chat. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that was talking about, it's only 90 seconds of a long. Well, could I suggest that they've probably chosen the wrong 90 seconds? If there were more positive parts of that team talk, release those, not the worst 90 seconds, because for me, that was a PR disaster. Absolute PR disaster.
You certainly have to hope that it wasn't, that it was the worst 90 seconds. Otherwise, that would be in video nasty, which we don't really need. So, yeah, no.
Yeah, look, I thought Semedo actually tonight did all right. I think he's improving. Disagree with the point with Mendy gave more than Cipriano gave. I thought that was Cipriano's worst performance in a Watford shirt. Everybody's going to have an off night. It just wasn't his night. Where I think we need to improve is second ball. We don't seem to win any second ball, particularly in defensive positions. And I think that is a problem. You could see their equaliser coming. The pressure got greater and greater. Do I blame Selvik? That was a hell of a good strike. I know he got beaten by his near post, but it was a good strike for me. Look, 4 points out of 6. If we win on Saturday, that's 7 out of 9. So that ain't bad. Can you sack somebody after getting 7 out of 9? Question. I don't know. I don't like the bloke. You know, it's as simple as that. I don't like him. You know, that was my opinion. Doesn't matter, does it? But if I don't like him, I think many fans. I think that's a problem with many fans. They just don't like him. Yeah.
No. Well, look, no, not being daft. We will have all known times when we had a win under those managers. I mean, we had a couple of wins under Dave Bassett, for crying out loud. You don't have to like the man to appreciate the points if they come in and when they do come in, and it's fine. This has always been here, as I've said, for people to come on and say, this is my thought, this is my point. We've never tried to hide away from that. Tommy making some points on YouTube, and Tommy, if you ever get an opportunity to come on Spaces, be more than glad to chat with you, mate. Absolutely. And he says all the fans hated the player power, Ben Foster, Deeney, etc. Now we have a manager with bollocks, we give him stick. The substitution worked, he says. FFS, but that never works when I say it rightly. It just sounds a bit silly, but that's his point. You know, look, people are entitled to take a look at it. They're entitled to say, I like it, I don't like him, or I think this, or like yourself, I don't know. I don't know where I'm sitting at this moment in time, because there's been bad bits. The second half felt like, as I said, felt to me chaotic, but I enjoyed the chaos. I thought, it felt like good old fashioned English football, and we've watched enough games that have felt like watching Serie A from 1979 that was like kind of literally pulling teeth on occasions, that I enjoyed that. Others didn't, and I'm not right and they're not wrong. It's just differences of opinion. The only thing I ask is basically, you don't have to worry so much about the fact that there is a split of opinion. If you are one person or one social media comment at a time trying to convince the whole world that you're right and that they're wrong, no matter where you stand, frankly, you're onto a losing game. You know, but the idea of this is just to have a discussion. And as I say, welcome all voices and all opinions. That they're welcome. And we had, you know, earlier on when Eamon came on, he went, well done. I don't think we've given him fair dues. Fair play. I love the fact he came on and said that. I get it entirely. And then we got into kind of this, that, and the other, and free speech and all sorts of stuff, because I think it's important. I fundamentally believe that you have the right to say the things you have to say. There is not freedom from the consequences of speech, but freedom of speech is, I mean, Jesus, it goes back to the Magna Carta, which was a contract that even Mogi was not old enough to get his name signed to it. So what can you say? Lovely.
Yeah, look, if we all agreed with each other, the world would be a very boring place. And, you know, I agree with you, Peter. Totally agree with you.
Well, that's very kind. That's very kind.
I just, you know, I don't know. I don't know where we are. It's just not very likable at the moment. Now, let's see.
Let's play devil's advocate, because obviously the only time the club have really released, if the club have released something else with that man's voice being put across, other than that 90-second video, then I may have missed it. There may have been a couple of bits, but if that's all you've got to judge him on, that and watching football, you know, kind of vicariously, because we haven't really seen, or from distance, remotely, I should say, we haven't really heard from the man. It is hard to like or dislike him. It's a bit like when you and I had a conversation about Gino, and we said it's hard to have empathy with somebody you haven't been able to communicate with, and that led to something. Let's hope that the club, if he does stay, are going to put some level of communication so he can get his points across. He seems to be communicating very well with Adam Drury, and Adam seems to be putting everything out along that particular line, and seems to be very favorable and thinks he's good. Fine, fair enough. You know, if that's the reaction from somebody you can hear from, let's hear more of it. Let's hear more of it, and hear more from him. Paradise has made a few points on this. Sorry, Paradise, if I've not mentioned them verbally. Thanks, Greg. You have a safe journey back, because we're going to have to get across to Jack. Jack, you hit your mic button, and then Caden, we're coming to you, and then we're going to go to Watford 1970. Oh, it's Ray, Patrick. It's Ray. Oh, Ray, I can't wait to come and speak to you. I haven't spoken to you in ages. Just before I come to you there, Jack, Paradise's comment, he said he's done nothing to be personally disliked by fans. He seems pleasant with the fans and media. Not sure of the personal dislike of him. Fair enough. Ryan, and I think that's a fair point. That's what I said. Hi, Pete. Ryan, I watched it on TV. Not the best game, but a point is a point. Absolutely. John Myers said another point. Tommy, totally agree with everything you say. Just had the negative from 90% of the fan base. Tommy, absolutely, mate. And I support yours, and I support Eamon's, and indeed Paradise's point, to be able to put your point across. And please don't feel that this is a forum that you can't interact with, because I absolutely support you to do so. Thank you very much indeed. Right, let's get across to the States. Let's get to speak to Mr. Jack Foster. Mr. Jack Foster, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. I wasn't initially going to say anything because I wasn't able to watch the game today, but then Paul Hawley brought up an interesting point about the general youth of the players and how exactly they should be treated. And it just made me think about how I'm sort of in the camp of, I don't really know how I feel about Paolo.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if the reports are true about it being a generally unhappy camp, and if he's this militant, angry person that some people have made him out to be, that's not going to work. But this also isn't primary school. The manager you bring in isn't supposed to be a babysitter for children. So there has to be some sort of middle ground where, you know, a manager can push players to better themselves because he respects them. And I'm glad Wendover brought up the point about the language barrier, because it's quite possible that whatever Paolo's message is just getting lost in translation. Certainly, anything that he's trying to communicate to the defense doesn't seem to be getting through. But it's, I mean, it is a little worrying. I would say that Irankunda had as loud of a reaction as he did to being subbed off. I mean, if the reports about it being a medical substitution are true, then absolutely he should have been informed of it, and then he wouldn't have had such an angry reaction. So, I mean, I'm hoping whether it's his English or something else, that Paolo's communication with the team can improve in the time that he's here. But there's just got to be that level of respect for each other that they can find, and that's when they can really make strides, I think.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, it's weird, and people have mentioned context, and I said, what I said about, that 90-second clip, it just, it is one of those moments where, nobody has ever had an HR meeting and said, yeah, but if you'd listened to what I said in other seconds, they weren't inflammatory. It doesn't matter. It's how it's put across and it's how it's done. That's fine. The fact is, the context is absolutely as it said. You've got 19, 20, and 21-year-olds. Now, these are, the context of that's important. Yes, they are young, but they also are uber competitive. The environment that they're in is one that traditionally, and I appreciate we are a multicultural squad, and therefore there's all sorts of additional cultural elements to be factored into this. But there aren't many countries where there are lots of shrinking violets in football. People could go in and tend to talk fairly straight. It's fair enough. So the age, yes, it is relevant, but the environment is also relevant, and we will see what happens. Whatever happens, and we don't know. I think definitely the water table has been contaminated by the fact that our owner's approach to something is things that we take on board. Every time myself, Justin, and Carl talk to an opposition kind of counterpart, it's the same old thing. It's always, it's seconds before the, have you fired anybody during the last 20 minutes kind of sessions come in. So of course it does. It permeates it, and we'll kind of laugh it off and blah blah blah. But it does permeate. There's no other way to see it. So there we go. Right, Jack, sir, thank you very much for doing that. Especially bearing in mind, if you didn't get to see it, I still appreciate you sort of coming on here and letting us know what your thoughts were. Let's get Caden on, who's been waiting patiently. Tommy said, Pete, you speak so much sense. Oh, trust me, my wife wouldn't tell you that. I love this space, but it feels 90% against the manager. I can guarantee if you win the next 6, it will be 90% lauding him up. I tell you what, if he wins the next 6, let's come back and discuss that at that point, because you may be well right. He could be the managerial equivalent of one of those players who we don't really get, and then something snaps and then he starts motoring. That might happen. Let's genuinely hope it does. But as I say, the contamination of the water table with how the owner works, the culture of the club is not one that is uber supportive. Typically the change or the other element to that, though, of course, is this is Gino Pozzo's selection, seemingly, whereas Rob Edwards and Tom Cleverley weren't managers who he was, shall we say, proactively supporting in quite the same way. We haven't laid a load of cash down, but he will want this guy to work. So, fingers crossed. Let's see what we can get. Caden, are you there, sir? Oh, no, he's gone. He's seemingly not there. That's a shame. Let's get across to Watford 1973, who is a gentleman who I was thinking about just the other day when I was looking through Telegram and various bits. Let's get across to Mr. Ray Badrick. Ray, sir, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all the better for hearing from you. I hope you've been well and everything is sort of treating you okay. Where are you with all things Watford and the like currently?
Yes, I just wanted to talk about the team talk on when it's Saturday.
Yep.
I think you just touched on it. Really, what I was going to mention about the the cultural aspect. So I think my view is that obviously it wasn't a good clip that was shown, but my view is that obviously Watford is a multicultural club. The players and probably the players who are in that changing room would have had various different managers from different nationalities in the past.
Yeah.
And they probably would be have seen different approaches. So probably what they've heard from different managers in the past wouldn't have been a surprise to them from what they heard from Pesolano. So I think they would have been used to similar approaches in the past. So it wouldn't have been a big surprise. So that was my view of it. And yeah, the comments they didn't look very happy. But when you're getting messages from a line manager in general walks of life, you're normally quite serious anyway, regardless of whether you won a match. And they just played a match of football, so you're going to be bloody knackered anyway. So you're not going to be all smiles. So I think that was my take on it, really. And I think, as previous listeners said, it was only a small snippet. So that was my take on it, really.
Fair enough. How, in terms of judging it from, we can judge him as an individual pretty much mainly from body language more than anything. Probably the best way to judge him is based on what his team are doing on the football field. How have you found the Pezzolano range or reign, I should say, to date football wise?
Okay, so before today and before you made that strange substitution, I was in the aim of giving him more time. But when he did that substitution earlier on, I thought he's got to go. That was really did it for me. But then we got that second half performance and we nearly won the game. So I really don't know. I think I can see why people can't take to the guy, but then again, he's quite invisible to the supporters. And I think, normally there's press conferences done with the managers. And I know there's a language barrier, but perhaps we did more press conference and spoke to the press a bit more rather than just doing press to the Watford Observer. We're not actually hearing from him. That might help his cause and might become a bit likable, so we know exactly where he is. But at the moment, because we only hear snippets, I can understand why he's not very likable. Obviously, you guys might hear more behind the scenes, so therefore you may know more than what I do. But yeah, it is what it is. And I think we all need to remember it's a possible appointment as well.
Yep.
And if it doesn't go well, there needs to be more pressure on him as well as Pesolano, because everyone speaking are talking about he's got to go. We also need to remember who's the guy who wants him as well.
Very good. Very good. Well, look, Ray, it's lovely to hear from you. Genuinely, I was going through the Telegram group of which Ray was part with us for a while, and thank you so much for that support. And really lovely to hear from you here. And yeah, well, let's hope. Look, whatever happens, let's hope it works out. For good. Right, I'm gonna try and do something here, which we will see whether or not it works. It probably won't, but we'll give it a go anyway. Let me just take a couple of bits because it's time for the 5-word review. And let me just before I do, we can just take that last one off there. There we go. And I'm going to try and see whether or not that works. Yes, it does. I'm going to go through the 5-word review, but for all you lovely people on YouTube and on Twitter Live, you'll be able to see the nonsense that I'm mispronouncing all the time. This is the 5-word reviews, and we always like to finish with it because and yes, by the way, Oyster and Melanie, yes, sorry, I said free speech a lot, I apologize. The whole point of this particular podcast, the whole point of the doing the spaces, trying to do, come down and speak to people, and yes, okay, fuck about a lot on a Saturday and have a bit of fun with it, it's to try to give voice to the fans as much as we can. Now, the points that have been made and discussed here about, you can put something on social media, absolutely. The idea was always to try to have a community, so to speak, and make this, if you will, the fire that everybody sits around and chats about it, for good or for bad, and be able to voice their opinion, no matter what they are, without having to kind of have a go at anybody about it. So there we go. And this is a real part of that, because the 5 words and the long forms are a big bit of that, because not everybody wants to, kind of yak on, and that's fine. Let's get through the 5 words. Silderman says, Petrie's and Semedo are really growing on me. Alan Allwood says, still sacked in the morning. Ryan Cripp says, no away win since Middlesbrough. I was there back in February this year. Very frustrating performance tonight. Simply not good enough against a fairly poor Pompey side. Paolo out. Clueless, pathetic, and no doubt he's gone by the time of the international break starting. We will see. WFC Chef says, Signor Sweatpants survives sacking somehow. Nice alliteration. I like that. Michael Channer says, oh, okie dokie. Okay, I like that. Kevin Robbins says, bring back Rajovic and Backman. Carl Campion says, Petzolano still has no friends. Carl Campion also says, players still have a problem. Catherine Pettifer says, still want head coach gone. Louis Teixeira, entertaining second half, terrible first. Something is so wrong, says Gaz, Northwestern Horn. Dr. Dickie Sutton, we spoke to him last Saturday, says more Vatter is the answer. Yeah, lots of people, coming out and saying, Vatter, how can we use him more? Surely this comes down to the shape, and this for me is the fundamental misfire. Is we've set up and we've built a squad, in my estimation, but you tell me where I'm wrong here, for 4-2-3-1. We've got lots of wingers. We've got lots of second line attackers. We've got 3 forwards who can all play with their back to goal, as we saw from young Semedo today. And yes, I did say young Semedo. I am that condescending. But we're absolutely fit to be able to play that role, but we don't. We switched after that, after the goal against Charlton and the 20 minutes against Norwich, into this kind of default of, no, we've got to have 3 at the back. And that seems to be what makes it, slow getting bodies forward and into the box at times. But the flip side of that coin is, does that make him tactically flexible? Well, because he changed it against who were we playing the other day? He changed it and we managed to kind of get something out of it. So there we go. Something is so wrong, says Gaz. As I said, more Vatter is the answer. Squad wasted with this clown, says Michael Froome. Vic Bates says, pretty funny, bonkers, enjoyable game. I absolutely agree. I loved the anarchy, the whole thing. Pete Joyce Jones says, it's the championship, innit? Lee Jackson says, top teams yet to play. Malk, another point despite the manager. Harry, now fuck off, Paolo. He says, oh dear. Dwayne Pipe, hello, Gary, says, Petzolano doing the hokey cokey. Piss poor first half again, says Mark. I do think we are a side of halves. That's definitely there for this season so far. Steve Pennell says the players seem to have played with pride for themselves to almost bail out the incompetent coach. Malk says Bassett, Hodgson, Wilder, Perryman, Petzolano. I don't think those are his favourite things in the word of Judy Andrews. Alan WC, hello Alan. Harrod Alan says players save tactically inept manager. Stuart Scullion says start our best team. Ian Bacon, a draw saves him. Damn. Simon Parkins, I simply don't understand anymore. It was incomprehensible, but we managed to talk nonsense for a little bit about it. Still want the manager gone, says Willie Eckers, like hello Ken. Casper Campion, a roller coaster of many emotions. Smitty says score, sit back, concede, repeat. Lee Loco Milky Joe says man of the match, classic Watford Twitter. I'm sure Hornet. We can't progress with Petzolano. Lee Style says Paolo and Watford FC don't mix. I mentioned on the part 1, as it turned out, because go figure, with us we went banging on for a while, was about the Ten Hag thing at Leverkusen, where after 2 league games, I think he may have had a cup game in there somewhere, they decided he wasn't a cultural fit. And maybe that's sort of where people are feeling a disconnect at the moment. But we've got other people on here quite rightly saying, well, no, give him time, see how it goes. We will see how it goes. Hopefully, as Tommy's turned around and said, look, if you get 6 games, you'll be all, kind of building a statue. Play to the whistle, says Laura Goods. Play to the whistle, lads. Stopped just before their second goal. For context, oh dear. Kernow Hornet, we're doing Cornwall well. Bonkers and entertaining, fun stuff. It was indeed. Skylar Rose, hey Skylar, not heard from you for a while. I hope you're well. We've got to expand that. Get rid of this idiot, Petzo. The players have clearly had enough, and the substitution of Irankunda and his reaction to it made me certain that he has tipped the apple cart with some players. We didn't lose, but the time wasting in the final minutes, final seconds even, between VAR and Vatter over a throw-in was totally brainless. Get the ball in the box and we might have won it. Really not sure how to feel about that result. Yeah, no. Do excuse me, wet the old whistle. For those people not watching, that's me just having a drink. Vince Smith says good players versus terrible coach. Frank Holiday says pot noodle and a sack. Like it, always loving a pot noodle reference. Backman would have saved that, says Brian. Hello, Brian. He also says he's a fucking tactical genius. Their second had a handball, he said. Did it? I didn't see that. Nick Smith, I saw you, Nick. I saw you. You were on the telly. You're famous, Nick. He said, stop going 1-0 down. Would be nice. Ben Coleman says, draw slows the sacking process. Dave Sweet says, at half-time, Pezzolano was dead man walking at 2-1. I was going to post if he is the new Tinker Man. At full time, I have no clue anymore. Yeah, well, we can. Those people. Sorry, I'm using Tommy as the example because Tommy, put in some positive points, and he said before on certain things. Well, he's done that and that's worked. Okay, he's done other things and they haven't worked. So there's a for and against in all of this, and that's why it's a back and forth. That's why it's a chat. He has to go now, though, says Tony Bailey. Dean Maloney says beaten to at the near post. Thomas, hey Tom, says manager has the charm of diarrhea. Sack him. Boyd, we heard from him earlier on. He says luckiest man in the universe. Slatan 10 says Selvig lost us the match. He says just sack him. Gino Pozzo asks Jesse Hornet. Yellow Army says a fucking clueless Tinkerman. Jonathan Hale says most hated man since Hodgson. God, blimey. I know I said scones and scones earlier on, but you don't have to go to him. Manager not got a clue, says Jess. Chris Emery, get the flag if Backman's conceded that. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That's not good. No, we can't go to Bin Laden. That's gone a little bit too overboard, I would suggest. Let's get to the full and the here we go, the long forms. Here we go, and then everybody can go to bed and ignore me. Thank you so much, by the way, for taking part in this. Thank you very much for the comments. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for just generally, thank you a lot, that kind of thing. John Parso says this is definitely more Sanino vibes than Ivic. Well, he was batshit crazy. We know he was, and he went when he. When we were quite on our uppers in the league table, won't go unless he walks, as Gino will like this style. Hampshire Hornet says 9 games in and we're no closer to knowing what our best squad is, what the tactics are, how to defend, how to attack. Not one game where we have played well, conceded in every game. 9 games against teams in the lower half of the league and we have 9 points. The coach is the problem. I find it hard to argue with that. But that's probably due to the fact that it's late and I'm puzzled, so never mind. Dr. Dickie Sutton says, I appreciate Pezzolano is difficult to like, but too many people saying when we do well, it's the players, not the manager. And then also saying when we're shit, it's the manager, not the players. Can't have it both ways. Like it. Nice stuff. Top players, says Paul Holly, play twice a week, Cups and Europe and internationals consistently. Our players don't need a rest. Yeah, there does seem to be this medical element in terms of controlling the amount of minutes that they can have. They were talking about it on the commentary a lot, which is now the flip side is we have to look at the flip side. Portsmouth have got a massive injury crisis, and at the moment we've got Georgie Chakvatadze. So maybe they're doing something right. Maybe it is. Who knows? Gaz Northwest Orland says recent tactic seems to be so dog shit in the first half that the opposition thinks it's an easy 3 points. Then we sucker punch them. Unfortunately, tonight we went ahead too early in the second half and left them too much time to regroup and equalise. You're right, Gaz. It is clearly a matter of timing. Jason Rhodes adds on from Adam Jury. Paul Pezzolano says he subbed Nestor Irankunda on 35 minutes because he didn't look fresh and feared he may suffer an injury. Not worried by reaction. Also includes quotes from Maddie Pollock, who says Irankunda was fine afterwards. You did see Irankunda on the pitch swapping his shirt with, I presume it was Segicic, who was the guy, as I say, who was also in the A-League in Australia. Portsmouth have got a lot of Australians, we found out this week. WFC Chef says, I can't stand this manager. That substitution was utterly unjustified, and the pathetically submissive last 20 minutes invited pressure from a truly awful Pompey side. In a list of dislikable managers, he tops Ivic, Matsari, Hodgson for me, and I fucking hated all 3 of them. Dr. Dickie Sutton's back again. He says the decision to bring on Vata to play wide and exploit space proved correct. Irankunda was poor against Hull and wasn't much better in the first half for an hour tonight. Just my opinion, of course. Well, absolutely. One of the things that Derek Payne said repeatedly was that Portsmouth's fullback, like to push on, and especially the guy on the right. And he said basically by bringing him on and having him over on the left side, which he wasn't in the first half, he came on sort of like for like, but then I suppose you quite often have a tactical rejig at the start of the second half, and it was the goal at the start of the second half when he was over on the left, blew down, and you know, hey, we scored the goal. Whether or not we have many players in the box is pretty superfluous if you've got Imran Loser and he's on the end of it. Malk up the Watty says, how can a 2-2 away result feel so bloody miserable? Low quality, unhappy looking, petulant players, a manager who seems intent on pissing off his entire squad, just horrible. Well, there we go. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks, Simon. Simon's including the Adam Drury quote there that we just read there. Or Watford Limericks. You get to see me try to make not a complete cods of this. Just a short while ago, I was sure that Paolo was off, out the door. I did not know his aim in his end-to-end game. He might go, but it's great when we score. I don't care what anybody says. There are not enough lyrics in football nonsense like this, and I'm enjoying it very much. Jesse Hornet says, what has Greg got in his pocket exactly? I think he meant a point. I hope he meant a point. We will find out one day, probably, in the courtroom. Coopsy says, I feel irritated. That 33rd minute substitution was the final straw that broke the camel's back for me. Ellie said we should be winning these kinds of games. Cries my 66-year-old ma, and not that note. She said, fuck 'em, the manager, I'm off to bed. Okay, fine, that's nice. Tom's back again. He said, Petzolano, the first half, we were a little bit too stretched on the pitch. The second half, we were a bit more compact. The good news is the team is showing that determination and character to turn around the games. Fuck off. No one wants you here, says Thomas. There's not much grey area in that statement. Jesse says, we should have sacked on Saturday. Just fuck off, Paolo. Get rid. Tom's back again with the last couple of things just to finish us off. Petzolano, you clueless clown. He says, you are sucking the soul out of Watford, or what little is left. Pack your crap and fuck off back to Uruguay. Sack him tonight. Paolo Petzolano says he subbed Nestor Irankunda because he didn't look fresh. There we go. Again, he says, you absolute fool. Well, look, there we go. That was that was fun and a bit different. We just thought we'd kind of do these things and kind of it allows us to maybe go in and explore what things are going on in and around the world of Twitter or the internet, etc. Unlike normal, but that's fine. So look, thank you ever so much for staying with us all. Today it was all a bit different. I'm like a lot of people, which is you can be in or out, or like Greg said, I don't know where I am, and it's all right for you to think whatever you think, whether you're for him or against him, it's fine. But what we do with each and every single game is, I suppose, we kind of gather more information, more evidence as to whether or not we move along the continuum to, no, I want him out, or, well, maybe there's something. If Tommy's, kind of, for instance, and it's hypothetical, if he suddenly turns around and we win 6 games, fantastic. The flip side against that is I agree wholeheartedly with the fact that we are so many games in, and yet I still don't know what formation we're trying to play. I still don't know what the tactics are. I think the tactics that we are playing with the 3-5-2 doesn't fit the squad personally, but you tell me where I'm wrong there. No problem with it. As you can probably tell, I'm very dull and I just like talking about football a lot. So yeah, there we go. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you all on Saturday. Before that, tomorrow we're doing an opposition review for Oxford.